You can be a UX designer. Today let's talk about whether UX is even important. And obviously the answer is yes, but there are some other viewpoints that I want you to consider as well, because I believe that almost anyone, yes, that includes you as well, can become a UX designer. This is not something that those true UX designers perpetrate all the time, that this is just like so high level amazing things just for super geniuses, and they create those jargon filled posts full of like crazy theories and basically blowing this whole job and this whole experience completely out of proportion. And in the end, it's not really that complex, but they make it feel complex because they basically want to have this feeling of superiority. So what they do is that they aim for people to believe that if there was no UX process, nobody could finish a simple registration form, nobody would be able to check out of an e-commerce store, and basically the entire internet would collapse. And obviously that's not true, and I have some examples for you. But before we get to the examples, I want to make sure that you understand that I'm trying to be positive here. But there are some things in this industry that aren't that great. I really want to shine some light on them, but I'll try to basically be as positive as I can, because that's my goal for this year. I don't want to be complaining all the time. So let's take a positive approach on why UX is actually a very accessible area to pursue. So if you're planning to become a UX designer, a UI designer, a product designer, or whatever designer that you want to become, don't worry, because the chances of you becoming good at it are actually very high. Let's imagine this hypothetical scenario. We have a registration form that we want as many users as possible to fill. Let's say it looks kinda like this. Now let's break some of the UX rules and make it almost impossible to fill out. Let's go totally insane here. Nah, that's not bad enough. Let's go even worse. Now what happens? Well, with a form like that, the registrations will surely drop by a large percent. A lot of people won't be able to complete it. Now we can employ the entire UX process here and fix it, but UX is not the only solution. Let's see what happens if we do this instead. Now, how many people do you think will finish the form anyway, despite the bad UX? And now we get to the actual hierarchy of things. Of course UX is important, but the most important thing is the value. I said it often and I'm gonna say it again, that if the value is insanely high, users will jump through flaming hoops of bad UX just to get to it. Okay, now let's get back to me talking for a little bit again. So the reason most people believe that UX is important, because the value is basically almost never that high. It's never that great, because if somebody's giving an amazing value, it means that they are earning a lot more on it, and basically in this economy, you can't really, get a really big value out of anything. So here is a story. In 2001, I started working at a startup, and while this sounds pretty normal now, in 2001, an internet startup was something that was basically like a unicorn. And I remember my first day walking on those like marble steps in a very modern office building in the center downtown of Warsaw, and I was like really stunned by it, that like people can do things, on the internet and get money. In 2001, UX as a word did not exist. There was no UX process to be found anywhere at the company, and basically my role there was to be a designer / developer, because back then there weren't even front-end developers, so all designers also had to code the HTML and CSS. So there was no UX process, nobody created personas, nobody drew empathy maps, nobody did flows in any way. There were like kind of sitemaps from time to time, like little diagrams, but not really in a way that they're done now. And if we ever used post-its, they were basically used to make some funny jokes and just stick them to these big CRT displays on your friend's desk or something like that. So we never used like sticky notes for anything other than jokes. And now, many years later, that startup still exists today. It's still operational. It's still doing somewhat okay, I guess, because it still exists. And all that without a UX process. Like, how is this even possible? How did they convince people to use their product without a UX process? And the thing is that they did offer a value, they were very quick to market, and there was some sort of a UX process, even though it wasn't called that way, because the idea was always to survey the users, to get their feedback, and to implement it, but it wasn't really convoluted in like all those many steps. The main steps were talk to people, see what they want, and then implement it and see if it's actually what they want. And I believe that's what it is. That's what it's all about. It's not really about some sort of process and pretending to be scientists or pretending to be geniuses. We're basically talking to people like, you know, in a way, hey Bob, do you like this website? Oh yeah, it's fine. Do you think this button looks really good here, and do you know what it does? Yeah, I know what it does. Okay, we're gonna keep the button. That's basically what it is. It's not really anything fancy, it's not really anything crazy. It's just talking to people, getting what they need and what they want, and implementing it. And implementing is just basically moving a rectangle from one place to another in a design tool, a modern design tool that we didn't even have in 2001. And of course there is the research part, and I want to just briefly mention the research part because I believe that determining if the product is even good should not be done by UX designers because it's not a part of the experience. The viability of the product, so like checking the product market fit, should be done by a dedicated market team or product team before any UX happens, and the whole UX research thing should be just about analyzing what and how to improve in the product. So no actual market analysis or stuff like that, because sometimes UX people overtake that for themselves to kind of feel more important, that like the UX people plan the entire product, they plan the entire app, and even if it has any reason for existing. That's not the point, that's not the truth, that's kind of taking more control that is necessary, and I don't believe it's right. So if you have the motivation and you want to do it, you want to be a product designer, just start doing it, start learning. It's gonna take you a while because it is like a pretty wide subject, so just do it. Just do it. I believe in you and you're gonna do great. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video, drink some water, have a good day, and yeah, I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers.